The soft hum of machines filled the room, breaking the silence of midnight. If you had walked into that hospital ward, you'd see a woman who looked more ghost than flesh. Skin pale as candle wax, lips cracked, her frail body wrapped in thin blankets. IV lines ran across her arms like tangled vines, feeding life that barely wanted to stay. Her name was Elena Reed, and tonight, life was hanging on by a whisper. Stage 2 cervical cancer. That's what the doctor said. But it wasn't the words that shattered her. It was her husband's face. He didn't look scared or broken. He looked bored, like the whole thing was an inconvenience. When the nurse pleaded with him to stay until morning, he sighed and said coldly, "I can't waste my life on you and those brats." Then, without a glance back, he walked out of the hospital, leaving his wife to die alone. A few hours later, that same man, Mark Reed, was photographed on a rooftop bar, champagne glass in hand, kissing his lover under golden lights. The world saw a man raising money in his wife's name, giving heartfelt speeches, pretending to be a grieving husband. But the truth behind those perfect smiles? He was already stealing every piece of her life, her business, her fortune, her name. What he didn't know was that the woman he left to die wasn't done breathing yet, and the empire he thought he owned still belonged to her. Because sometimes the dead don't stay buried. They rise quietly, just to watch you fall. "Hello, family," the voiceover continued softly. "Welcome back. Before we begin, please click subscribe. Every single click helps us tell stories of courage and truth. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Because when we share these stories, we remind each other that even in pain, we can rise again." Inside that cold room, the heart monitor beeped, slow, unsteady, each sound weaker than the last. Beep, beep, beep. Elena's eyes flickered open beneath the sterile glow. Her body was a battlefield, every breath a fight. Across from her, Mark stood in his perfect navy suit, arms crossed, scrolling through his phone like her suffering was background noise. Dr. Lewis lowered his chart gently. "Stage 2 cervical cancer," he said. "We'll begin chemo first thing tomorrow." Mark didn't even look up. "Tomorrow? She doesn't even look like she'll make it through the night." Grace, the young nurse standing nearby, shot him a glare. "Sir, your wife can hear you?" Mark turned to her, eyes cold as steel. "You think I don't know? She's drained our savings, collapsed from exhaustion, and now she's already as good as dead." His voice broke into a cruel whisper. The words hung heavy in the air. Elena's trembling fingers reached toward him. "Mark, please, don't give up on me." He stepped back, his face expressionless. "You're nothing but a burden now. I can't waste my life on you and those brats." Grace froze. "Brats?" "The twins," he said flatly. 4 months old, and she can't even feed them without crying." Elena's voice broke apart. "They need you." "They'll be fine," he snapped. "They're asleep. You should rest too." And with that, he turned for the door. "Where are you going?" Grace asked. "Home," he said simply. "I have business." The door clicked shut. Silence swallowed the room. Grace turned back to Elena, her eyes soft. "Don't move, Mrs. Reed. I'll get you some water." But Elena wasn't listening. She stared at the reflection in the metal V-pole. Pale, hollow, unrecognizable. "He wanted me gone," she whispered. "He wanted a clean slate." Grace returned, pressing the cup into her shaking hands. "You need rest. You have to fight. For your children." Elena nodded weakly. "I will, but not for him. For them." Just outside, a faint text tone buzzed from Mark's phone, the one he'd left on the counter. Grace glanced down. The screen flashed a name. Vanessa, she murmured. That night, as the lights dimmed, Elena's eyes drifted shut. Her heart monitor steadied. Grace tucked the blanket tighter. "Sleep, Mrs. Reed," she whispered. "Tomorrow's another day." But Elena's faint voice rose through the dark. "If I don't make it, tell him. He buried me alive." In the hallway, a camera caught Mark whispering into his phone. "I miss you already, V. Can't wait to see you again." The elevator doors slid shut, the lights flickering like a warning of what was to come. The next morning, chaos erupted. Mark was back, waving papers, shouting at the nurse's station. "I said discharge her today." "Sir," Grace said quietly, "your wife isn't stable. She collapsed last night." Mark slammed the clipboard down. "She's wasting space and everyone's time." The security guard stepped closer. "Sir, please lower your voice." "This is a hospital," Mark sneered. "My wife has cancer and instead of fighting, she's giving up. You know what that makes her?" "Dead weight." Dr. Lewis appeared, frowning. "Mr. Reed, we can't discharge her without consent." "Then get it," Mark snapped. "She'll sign whatever I tell her to." Inside the room, Elena struggled to sit up. Every sound cut like glass, but she heard him. Every word. Grace rushed in. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "He wants me gone," Elena said faintly. He already thinks I'm dead. Mark entered moments later, voice suddenly sweet. Honey, he said loudly, you're my brave wife. Everyone's praying for you. He turned to the doctor. I just posted online asking for prayers. People are already responding. Grace caught a glimpse of his phone screen lighting up again. I miss you already. Velena's eyes filled with quiet rage. Don't let him near my babies, she whispered. Mark froze. What did you say? Our twins, she breathed. They're all I have. He smirked. They're fine. I hired a nanny. Rest, okay? Then, under his breath, so low only she could hear, don't try to find me. He signed the discharge papers, writing his own name on the line for responsible party. Outside, cameras flashed as he posed, thanking the hospital for their support of cancer awareness. People clapped. They believed the performance. Inside, Elena watched through the glass, her heart breaking and rebuilding all at once. Grace leaned close. He's not coming back, is he? Elena blinked through tears. No, she whispered, but he'll remember me. The heart monitor spiked. Beep, beep, beep. Her body shook, gasping for air. We're losing her, Dr. Lewis shouted. Stay with me, Elena, Grace cried. Elena reached out, gripping Grace's wrist. Her voice was a ghost's whisper. If I live, don't tell anyone. Let him think I'm gone. The monitor flatlined, then suddenly jolted back to life. Grace gasped. She's breathing, she said, tears filling her eyes. Dr. Lewis nodded softly. She's alive. Barely. Grace leaned close, whispering to herself. Sometimes survival is louder than vengeance. Through the glass, Mark gave one last fake wave before walking out the front door's briefcase in hand. Smile wide. Grace stared after him, jaw tight. He buried her alive, she muttered, and he'll pay for it. As Mark stepped into his car, his phone buzzed again. Vanessa's voice message played. It's done, baby. The world thinks she's gone. Now it's just us. He laughed softly, not knowing the hospital cameras had captured every second. The public mask of a grieving husband begins, and the first thread of his fake life starts to unravel. Crystal glasses clanked under the glow of gold chandeliers. The restaurant pulsed with soft jazz and expensive perfume. But at one corner table, deceit was the main dish. Mark leaned back in his chair, dark suit crisp, tie loosened just enough to look grieving but surviving. Across from him sat Vanessa, a woman in a red silk dress whose smile could slice glass. She raised her glass and whispered to Freedom, darling. You deserve this, Mark's eyes gleamed. Freedom tastes expensive. Ethan, the waiter, stepped forward with careful grace. Good evening, sir. Would you like another bottle of Chateau Margaux? Vanessa grinned. Yes, we're celebrating. The restaurant photographer Maya captured a candid moment. Mark laughing, Vanessa's hand resting over his. The same man who just hours ago told the world he was a widowed father of twins and a mental health advocate. When Maya's flash went off, Vanessa's assistant, a young man in a gray suit, frowned. No photos tonight, he whispered, shielding her face. Vanessa waved him off. Relax, let them see us. It's fine. People know who I am. Mark chuckled, swirling his wine. Not yet, baby. The timing must be perfect. The media still thinks I'm the devoted husband. Let's milk that. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through notifications, comments pouring in under his charity post. You're so strong, Mark. Your wife would be proud. A man like you gives hope. He smiled. Look at that. The sympathy is working. People love a story about pain, especially when it's fake. Vanessa laughed softly. And when will the money come through? Mark leaned closer, lowering his voice. Soon. I forged her signature on the insurance claim. Once the system clears it, I'll get the transfer. After that, we build our empire. Maya, standing by the bar, froze mid-shot. The words forged her signature echoed in her mind. Her lens zoomed in instinctively, capturing Mark's grin and the glittering ring on his hand, the same ring seen in Elena's hospital photos. As Vanessa's assistant adjusted her shawl, Vanessa said coldly, she was weak, always sick. You did what any man would do? Mark smirked. Yeah, she was nothing but a blank page. The waiter placed the new wine on the table, glancing nervously at them. Mark handed him $100 bill. Forget our faces. Ethan hesitated. Sir, Mark's voice hardened. Forget them. He left the bill and turned back to Vanessa. By next month, I'll launch the Protagonist Foundation for Women's Cancer Awareness under my name. Of course, we'll get tax breaks and media love. Vanessa raised her glass again to building a new life on her grave. They clink-ticked glasses. The camera flash went off again. Mark didn't see Maya lower her lens, her face pale. She quietly whispered to herself. He walked away from his wife's hospital bed for this. She checked the photo preview. Mark kissing Vanessa under gold chandeliers and soft piano music. A perfect scandal framed forever. Outside thunder rolled. Mark slipped his arm around Vanessa and whispered, It's just you and me now. Maya uploaded the photo to her private drive, labeling it the man who buried his wife alive. As Mark and Vanessa left the restaurant, a soft voice came through his phone speaker, an automated message. Your insurance claim for Mrs. Elena Reed has been approved. His smile widened. He didn't know someone else had already seen everything. Maya's hand trembled as she whispered to herself, if this goes public, someone's life will explode. The hospital alarms blared. Nurses rushed down the corridor, but in room 204 everything was still too still. Elena lay motionless on the bed, eyes half open, heart monitor steady but faint. To anyone passing by, she looked gone. Grace stood by the door, breathing hard, her mind racing. She had seen Mark's cruelty, his forged papers, Hisley's. He wanted her gone. He wanted a clean slate, and now the system was helping him erase her. Grace whispered under her breath, not today. She unplugged the IV quietly, folding the cords like rope. Then she grabbed a wheelchair. We're leaving, she said softly. Elena stirred weakly. Leaving? Grace nodded. Yes, right now before he cashes in on your death. Elena's lips trembled. But how? Grace's eyes darted to the hallway camera, red light blinking through the back service exit. No one checks there after shift change. Extreme urgency filled the air. She rolled Elena down the hallway, avoiding the main wing. Every footstep echoed like thunder. At the discharge desk sat Mrs. Jenkins, an older clerk with soft eyes and shaking hands. Grace leaned close, whispering, I need a patient release under alias, no questions. Mrs. Jenkins froze. Grace, if the board finds out, please. Grace cut her off. Her husband forged her death certificate. He's trying to claim insurance. She'll die for real if she stays here. Mrs. Jenkins looked between them. Elena's bruised face, the dried tears, the slow heartbeat. Alias name. Grace didn't hesitate. Elena Reed becomes Anna Miller. Mrs. Jenkins hesitated, then stamped the form. You didn't get this from me. Grace smiled faintly. Thank you, Elena managed to whisper. Why help me? Grace looked at her. Because I'm a nurse, and because one day someone might need to save me too. They moved quickly down the back corridor. The world outside the exit door was gray, the sky heavy but calm. The storm that once raged in Elena's life had quieted, but only for now. She shivered as Grace draped a hospital blanket over her. Her body was fragile, but her eyes burned with something new resolve. I lost everything, Elena murmured. My home, my name, my babies. Grace stopped the wheelchair and knelt in front of her. You didn't lose them. You're just building yourself in silence. Let him think you're gone. Elena's tears fell quietly. He'll climb higher. Grace nodded. Then he'll fall harder. They reached the service door. Grace looked around and pressed the exit bar. The door clicked open, spilling golden evening light into the hall. Elena took her first step outside barefoot, trembling but alive. Where will you go? Grace asked. Elena looked at the horizon. Someplace quiet, a place no one knows my name. Grace squeezed her hand. Then go, Anna. And when the world finally sees the truth, make sure he hears your name again. A hospital van drove past. Inside, a file folder lay forgotten on the passenger seat. Forged documents, transfer records, and a signature that didn't belong to Mark's wife. Elena glanced at it, her jaw tightening. Keep it safe, she said. That folder will end him one day. Grace nodded, watching as Elena disappeared into the setting. Sunday, Grace whispered to herself. She'll need a place to hide. Maybe that quiet rural town 3 hours west, the one with the old storefront. The bus screeched to a stop on a dirt road lined with sagging fences and shuttered windows. Dust swirled in the air. Elena stepped down slowly, clutching a small duffel bag to her chest. Her hospital bracelet still clung to her wrist, proof of the grave she'd just escaped. The cold wind bit through her thin sweater. A wooden sign creaked overhead. Welcome to Willow Creek population. 2-8, she took a shaky breath. This was it. A quiet rural town far from the world that thought she was dead. Her steps were unsteady as she approached an old 2-story building with a faded sign for it. The front window was cracked, but sunlight spilled through it like hope forcing its way back in. A voice called from inside. You lost, miss? She turned to see Mr. Jenkins, a stout man in his 60s with a gentle smile and a limp. Name's Jenkins. I own the place. I'm looking for a room, Elena said softly. And maybe some work. He studied her. The tired eyes, the trembling hands, the faint scars from ivy lines. You're running from something, he said not unkindly. Elena hesitated, then nodded. From the past, he shrugged. Well, around here, everyone's hiding from something. He handed her an old brass key. Rooms upstairs, rent's cheap. You fix things, you stay. Her lips curved into a faint smile. Thank you. Inside, the room smelled of dust and old wood. She sat on the edge of the bed, pulling out the one thing she'd managed to keep, a worn photo of her twins. Their baby faces smiled up at her, untouched by betrayal. She traced their cheeks with her thumb, whispering, "Our twins. Mama's still breathing." Tears rolled down her face as she pressed the photo to her heart. The silence was loud, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was safe, hidden. A knock came at the door. A woman stood there with a kind face and messy curls. Sarah, a neighbor from across the street, holding a tray of soup. "You must be the new tenant," Sarah said warmly. "I figured you'd be hungry." Elena smiled weakly. "You didn't have to." "Please," Sarah interrupted. "Around here we look after each other." As Elena took the tray, her hands trembled. "Thank you." "Truly," Sarah's eyes softened. "You remind me of someone I used to know. Someone who'd been through hell but didn't let it break her." Elena looked away, swallowing tears. "I'm trying." Sarah nodded. "Keep trying. You never know who's watching your fight." When Sarah left, Elena looked around the small room again. The cracked walls, the flickering bulb, the faint hum of life outside. It wasn't much, but it was hers. She reached into her duffel bag and pulled out a small notebook labeled JNL Home Goods. Inside were sketches, plans for a small business making handmade goods from women in local shelters. "This is where I start," she whispered. A soft knock echoed again. She opened the door to find an envelope lying on the floor. No name, no address, just one line inside, written in black ink. "Build yourself in silence. Let him think you're gone." Her breath caught. She knew that handwriting. Nurse Grace. Tears welled as she whispered, "I will." She placed the note inside the notebook and stared out the window as the sun set, the sky painted in amber and rose. But at the edge of town, a black SUV slowed near the old post office. Inside, a man in a suit flipped through a file marked insurance claim approved. He smiled coldly. "She's gone officially." Elena Shawn tightened around the notebook. "If the world thinks I'm gone," she whispered, "then maybe I can finally learn how to live." The sound of hammering filled the old storefront, echoing down the narrow street of Willow Creek. Dust hung in the air, sunlight cutting through it like hope breaking through fog. Elena stood on a wooden stool, painting a faded wall pale blue. Her hands shook, but not from weakness, from purpose. Each brushstroke was an act of defiance. Outside, a sign leaned against the door. "Coming soon. J&L Home Goods." Sarah, the kind neighbor who'd become her closest ally, peeked through the doorway. "You sure you want to open a business here, Anna?" Shesked, using Elena's new name. Elena smiled faintly. "Yes, this town needs jobs. The shelters are full of women like me. Women who were left behind." Sarah stepped closer, setting down a basket of fabric scraps. "You sound like someone who's been burned." Elena paused, her eyes distant. "I was," her voice softened. "But sometimes life writes a different ending." Sarah tilted her head. "You're hiding something, aren't you?" Elena looked up, eyes sharp. "A past that could kill me if it finds me." Sarah nodded slowly. "Then maybe this shop is your safe place. A quiet rebellion." The intensity eased into reflection. Elena sat at the work, her hands covered in paint. "When I was in the hospital, I thought dying would be easier than fighting. But then I heard my babies cry in my dreams. I couldn't leave them to his lies." Sarah reached out gently. "Then build this for them. Make something that keeps you alive." Elena smiled through tears. "I will build yourself in silence," Grace told me. She was right. Her phone buzzed. A private number flashed on the screen. Elena's heart raced as she answered. "Grace." The familiar voice came through, urgent but calm. "I have news. The insurance claim went through. Mark took the money. He's been on TV pretending to run a charity in your name." Elena's grip tightened on the phone, selling himself as a dedicated father and mental health advocate. She said bitterly. "Yes," Grace replied. "But listen, something strange happened. A journalist named Maya is asking questions. She saw him with a woman in red. Be careful. She might become your ally, or she might be his threat." Elena glanced at the signboard again, the name J and L glinting in the afternoon light. "Let her dig," she said softly. "The higher he climbs, the harder he'll fall." Sarah frowned. "What's wrong?" Elena ended the call. "Nothing," she said quietly. "Just the past knocking again?" They continued working in silence. The small shop filled with the smell of wood polish and fresh paint. For the first time, Elena felt something close to peace. She hung a small frame on the wall, the photo of her twins, smiling beside the words, "Home is what we build, not what we're given." The doorbell jingled. Sarah turned. "We're closed." "Sir." A delivery man stood there holding a large brown envelope. "Delivery for Miss Anna Miller," he said. Elena hesitated. "Who's it from?" He shrugged. "No return address." She took the envelope and tore it open. Inside was a stack of copies of forged documents, financial transactions, and online scrolled across the top. "You don't know me, but I know what he did." Her breath caught. "Grace didn't send this." Sarah's eyes widened. "Then who did?" Elena looked out the window, the town glowing gold under the evening Sunday. Someone's watching him, she whispered. And maybe they're watching me too. The last line of the note glinted under the light. The Protagonist Foundation Gala. 3 months. Elena's eyes hardened. Let him have his gala, she whispered. That's where his story ends. Cameras flashed like lightning as the black limousine pulled up to the red carpet. Mark stepped out first. Dark suit, white smile, practiced grief. Beside him, Vanessa emerged in a glittering red gown, her hands slipping discreetly into his. The crowd gasped. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Reed, is it true tonight's event honors your late wife? How does it feel to lead the Protagonist Foundation for Women's Cancer Awareness? Mark placed his hand over his heart, lowering his eyes as if in sorrow. I'm doing this to honor her legacy, he said, his voice steady. She was brave. She fought chemo with courage. I just want to keep her spirit alive. Applause broke out. Some people even cried. The PR manager, a young woman with a clipboard and earpiece, whispered, "Perfect. Stay emotional. Cameras love that." Mark nodded, slipping back into character. She'd want me to help others, he said for their microphones. That's what love is. Sacrifice. But behind the stage lights, his real smile emerged, sharp, selfish, calculated. Inside the ballroom, everything shimmered. Gold chandeliers and soft piano music, floral walls, and 1,000 eyes watching. Mark raised his glass on stage. To my wife, Elena Reed, a woman who taught me compassion. The audience clapped. Some wiped tears. Others whispered, "You're so lucky to have a man like him." Beside the stage, Vanessa leaned against the pillar, whispering, "They really bought it." Mark smirked. They always do. People love heroes, even fake ones. The PR manager handed him a folder. Press release for tomorrow. You'll trend by morning. He flipped it open. Headlines already drafted. Mark Reed, the Humanitarian of the Year. Mark grinned. I like the sound of that. As he returned to the table, Vanessa leaned close. After this, you'll have everything. Money, fame, power. You can finally stop pretending. He took a sip of champagne. I'll stop pretending when the past stops breathing. Vanessa frowned. You think she's really gone? He laughed quietly. She's dead. The hospital signed it, forged my death certificate, remember? I handled everything, but the camera near the dessert table zoomed in, recording every word. Vanessa traced the piss rim of her glass. Sometimes ghosts come back in unexpected ways, Mark. He raised an eyebrow. You sound paranoid. She looked away. No, just realistic. The pianist shifted to a softer melody. Mark glanced at the massive portrait of Elena projected behind him, her smiling face from their wedding day. For the first time all evening, something inside him flickered a flash of discomfort. He looked away quickly, but across the ballroom among the servers and staff, a woman paused while pouring champagne. Her eyes locked on that portrait. She froze, heart racing. She looked exactly like Elena. The PR manager whispered into her headset. Who is that? She's not on the staff list. Before anyone could react, the woman turned and disappeared through the crowd. Mark adjusted Histy, unaware. Let's make this a night to remember, he said, stepping onto the stage again. Behind him, the giant screen flickered just for a moment, as if someone was testing the feed. Then the portrait changed to a black background with a single glowing sentence. Sometimes the one you abandon returns. The room went silent. Mark frowned. What was that? Vanessa froze, gripping his arm. That wasn't part of the program. The PR manager's headset crackled. We didn't upload that message. The pianist stopped playing. From the back of the room, a woman's voice whispered through the live feed speakers. Calm, controlled, haunting. This is only the beginning. The cafe door slammed open, and Maya Brooks, a sharp-eyed investigative journalist in her 30s, rushed in carrying a folder thick with documents. Her laptop bag thudded against the wooden floor. You need to see this, she said, breathless. Across the table sat Elena, wearing a dark coat and sunglasses. Her once fragile frame now carried quiet strength. She lifted her gaze slowly. I was told you were discreet. Maya opened the folder, revealing pages stamped confidential, forged transfers, tax evasion, and fake charity accounts, all under Mark Reed's name. Someone sent these anonymously. Charity embezzlement, identity theft, even forged hospital forms. Does any of this look familiar? Elena's eyes darkened. Every line, every signature. He used my foundation, the Protagonist Foundation for Women's Cancer Awareness, to launder stolen donations. Grace, who had been standing guard near the door, stepped closer. He even drained her savings and her mother's inheritance. Maya's pen paused. So the rumors are true. You're supposed to be dead. Elena didn't blink. Let's keep it that way. The journalist sat back, her voice softening. You're risking everything by meeting me. Why now? Elena leaned forward, her tone cold but calm. Because the truth needs eyes, and I need proof. Ma studied her carefully. You don't want revenge, do you? Elena shook her head. Survival is louder than vengeance. I want justice quietly. The intensity eased into reflection. The rain outside tapped against the windows steady like a heartbeat. Grace pulled a flash drive from her pocket and slid it across Thedable. It's everything. Copies of forged documents, transfer receipts, and recorded calls. If we leak them strategically, the world will see who he really is. Maya's brows lifted. Then we'll expose him, not through gossip, but through law. Just then, the cafe door opened again. A tall woman in a tailored gray suit entered. Clara Reed, attorney and longtime family friend. She walked straight to the table, her tone precise. I represent the Reed estate. You're Elena's legal counsel now, she told Maya calmly. Mia blinked. Wait, you're working with her? Clara nodded. I've been protecting her assets, quietly. What he doesn't know is that the company's majority ownership still belongs to her. Elena looked stunned. My mother left it to me? Clara placed a thin folder in front of her. Yes, before she died, she moved every share under your name. You own Reed Industries valued at over $100 million. Elena's breath caught. So all this time he was stealing from my empire. Maya's eyes widened. That means he's not just a liar. He's a felon. Grace smiled faintly. And the walls are closing in. Elena's trembling hands steadied as she whispered. Then it's time the world remembered who Elena Reed is. The lights flickered. Maya's phone buzzed a new message from an unknown number. She turned the screen toward Elena. Good evening. You don't have to hide anymore. He's already being watched. Elena's pulse quickened. Who sent that? Maya checked the metadata. It's coming from inside his company. Clara leaned in, voice low. Then we have an ally on the inside. Elena gathered the papers, her voice firm. Then let's finish what he started legally, publicly, and without mercy. The conference room at Reed Industries was filled with tension thick enough to cut. Computer screens glowed with financial data, and stacks of printed ledgers covered the table like evidence in a trial. Ron, the company's financial auditor, paced nervously, tapping his pen. These aren't just accounting errors. These are deliberate transfers, offshore wires, fake invoices, all under Mark Reed's digital signature. Mr. Parker, the gay-haired board chair, looked grim. If this leaks, the entire board will collapse with him. Investors will panic. The glass door opened quietly. Clara Reed entered first, briefcase in hand, her expression calm but severe. Behind her walked Elena, dressed in a black blazer, hair teed back, face composed yet unrecognizable from the frail woman she once was. Ron nearly dropped his pen. Mrs. Reed, but you're dead, she finished softly. Not anymore. The room froze. Elena moved closer to the head of the table, eyes scanning the documents. Show me everything. Maya, seated at the corner with her laptop, nodded. Every trail leads back to him. Charity embezzlement, forged signatures, even attempts to access your late mother's trust. Grace, who stood quietly behind her, whispered. He didn't just betray you. He betrayed every woman who believed in your foundation. Elena exhaled slowly, her fingers brushing over the company's seal embossed on the report. My mother built this company with integrity. He turned it into a crime scene. The intensity eased into reflection. Her gaze drifted to a framed portrait of her mother on the wall. The same eyes, same quiet strength. For a moment, the memories flooded back. Her mother's voice, faint but steady. They'll strip you bare. But what's yours can never be stolen, she whispered. You were right, Mom. Clara opened her folder and slid a single document across the table. Before your mother passed, she filed an ownership transfer. Every share of Reed Industries belongs to you, Elena. Legally, you control the entire $100 million empire. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air vents. Mr. Parker's eyes widened. Then technically, Mark Reed's been embezzling from his own wife's company. Maya looked up from her notes and forging her death certificate to do it. Elena's expression didn't change. Then it's time to stop, pretending he's untouchable. Grace smiled faintly. Not yet. Let him climb higher. The harder he'll fall. Elena nodded. Exactly. We won't leak it yet. We'll let him walk into his own fire. Ron blinked nervously. How? Clara closed her briefcase. Through truth. Maya, you'll record every transaction. Ron, verify the audits. Parker, prepare the emergency board summons. When the evidence is complete, we'll drop it publicly at the next gala. Maya grinned. A perfect storm. Elena looked out the window at the city skyline glowing under the sunset. He built his empire on my grave, she whispered. Now he'll watch Maurice from it. Suddenly Ron's phone buzzed on the table. He frowned. That's strange. I didn't. He opened the message, his face drained of color. Someone's already inside the system. Clara looked alarmed. Inside how? He turned the screen. A live notification blinked. Accessing private files. Reed Industries main server. User M read. Elena's voice dropped cold. He knows, Maya whispered. If he's in the system, he'll see every move we've made. Elena's eyes hardened. Then we let him watch. Sometimes you have to let the guilty dig their own grave. The city skyline shimmered outside the penthouse windows, but inside chaos ruled. Mark's phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, alerts, notifications stacking like bricks of panic. He gripped the glass table so tightly his knuckles turned white. What do you mean there's an investigation? Hess snapped into the phone. On the other end, Ron, his financial auditor, stammered. Sir, regulators are reviewing your charity transactions. There were anonymous tips to the regulatory board. Copies of transfers, forged signatures, even evidence of charity embezzlement. Mark's jaw clenched. Anonymous? What would dare? Before Ron could answer, Vanessa, dressed in silk pajamas, strode into the room holding a glass of wine. What's happening now? He covered the receiver. Nothing I can't fix. Vanessa arched a brow. That's what you said when you forged her death certificate. He shot her a glare. Keep your voice down, but it was too late. The PR manager and event planner standing near the living room projector heard every word. Their eyes widened. Mark turned back to the call. Ron, calm down. Delete whatever you saw. This will all disappear. Ron's voice shook. Sir, the files are public. Someone leaked the documents to watchdog groups. You're trending. This isn't going away. Mark froze. His phone buzzed again. A headline alert flashing on the screen. Hero husband or hidden thief. Charity fraud allegations. Shake Reed Industries. The intensity spiked. Mark hurled his phone across the room. It hattered against the marble floor. Vanessa flinched. Mark, get a grip. Hepa said, hands in his hair. It's her, he hissed. It has to be. She's behind this. She's haunting me. The PR manager hesitated. You mean your wife? Mark spun toward her. She's gone. She's dead. The event planner spoke softly. Then why did the foundation email mention Elena Reed, primary owner? It came from your company server this morning. Mark's face went pale. What did you say? Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. Mark, what if she's alive? He shook his head violently. Impossible, I buried her. I signed it myself. Vanessa backed away, fear creeping into her tone. You forged her death certificate. If she's really alive, you're finished. Mark slammed his fist on the table, shattering a glass. No one crosses me. The room fell into silence. Then, as if on cue, the TV flickered to life. The network wasn't supposed to be on. Across the screen, a still image appeared. Elena's portrait. Her voice echoed faintly through the speakers. You can't bury the truth, Mark. Everyone froze. Vanessa whispered. That's her voice. Mark stumbled backward, eyes wide. It's a recording, a setup. But the voice spoke again, clearer this time. The truth always finds its way home. The screen went black. Mark stood trembling, sweat trickling down his temple. Get me the humanitarian gala list. He barked at the PR manager. If she's alive, she'll show her face there, Vanessa whispered. And if she does, he stared out the window, eyes burning. Then I'll make sure she dies twice. As thunder rolled outside, the PR manager whispered to the event planner. The gala is tomorrow, and if she really shows up... The event planner finished the sentence softly. It won't be him everyone's clapping for. The rain droomed against the window of the penthouse suite where Elena stood staring at the city glowing beneath her. Tomorrow night the entire world would watch. Tomorrow night justice would finally breathe. But tonight was war insolence. Her reflection in the glass looked nothing like the woman who had once collapsed from exhaustion on a hospital bed. Her hair fell neatly over her shoulders, her posture tall, unshaken. She touched the scar on her wrist where the IV had once been. Her body was a battlefield, she whispered, and she won. The door opened quietly. Grace, carrying a garment bag, stepped in. You look like you're about to walk into a fire, she said softly. Elena smiled faintly. I am. Grace hung the bag over a chair and unzipped it. A long black gown, simple yet striking. This is more than a dress, she said. It's armor. The intensity simmered as Clara entered, folders tucked under her arm. The evidence files are ready. Fraud, identity theft, forgery, and embezzlement all tied to his accounts. Once we hand them over to the press, the police will have no choice. Maya followed behind, camera bag slung over her shoulder, eyes sharp with conviction. And when he walks on that stage tomorrow, I'll be filming. Every gasp, every tear, every lie breaking in real time. Elena exhaled deeply. Good. Let the world see who he really is. Grace adjusted the bracelet on Elena's wrist. Do you ever think about what comes after? Elena's gaze softened. After the truth. After the crowd stops clapping. Elena's voice trembled just slightly. Then I start living again. Maybe I'll build a hospital for women like me. Maybe I'll raise my children without fear. She looked at the window again, her reflection merging with the skyline. He abandoned us in sickness and despair. But tomorrow he'll see the woman he buried standing taller than his lies. Maya set up her camera tripod, recording test footage. Your story isn't just about him, Elena. It's about every woman who ever had to build herself in silence. Elena nodded, emotion flickering across her face. Silence taught me patience. Pain taught me power. Clara stepped closer, placing an envelope on the table. Inside is your mother's final note. I found it when we reopened the safe deposit box today. Elena opened it slowly. The handwriting was familiar, graceful, trembling. If the world forgets you, remind it who you are. Tears blurred her eyes. I'll remind them, Mama. The thunder outside eased to a steady hum. Grace checked the clock. It's almost midnight. Elena took one last look at her reflection and whispered, Not yet. Let him climb higher. The harder he'll fall. Then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message. She opened it and her heart stopped. See you tomorrow, Elena. Don't be late. Maya looked up. Who sent that? Elena's face went pale. Mark? Clara whispered. He knows you're coming. Elena folded the note in her hand, eyes like steel. Good, she said. Let him wait. This time I'm the storm. The ballroom pulsed with flashbulbs and whispers. Reporters packed every corner, the air thick with perfume and deceit. Tonight was supposed to be Mark Reed's triumph. The Humanitarian of the Year gala honoring the Protagonist Foundation for Women's Cancer Awareness. But fate had other plans. Extreme intensity filled the room. Cameras swarmed as Mark stepped onto the red carpet, holding Vanessa's hand. She smiled like a queen beside him, her red dress catching every flicker of light. The event host, microphone in hand, boomed. Let's welcome the man of the hour, the one who turned pain into purpose. Applause thundered. Mark raised his glass, his polished speech rehearsed to perfection. I dedicate this night to my late wife, Elena Reed, he said solemnly. She was my heart, my courage, and my reason to fight for others. Battling women's cancer awareness. People wiped tears. Flashlights burst like fireworks. Then from the back of the hall, heels clicked against marble. Slow, steady, confident, the crowd turned. A woman in a black gown stepped through the entrance, the spotlight finding her face. For a heartbeat, time froze. Mark's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Elena, he breathed, his voice cracked. You're... She smiled faintly. Alive. The room gasped as she walked forward, every camera turning to her. You look surprised, Mark. Didn't you say you buried me? Whispers rippled through the audience. Vanessa palled. This can't be real, she muttered. The event host, caught in shock, dropped his cue cards. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Elena Reed. Elena took the microphone. Her voice was calm but cut through the hall like thunder. I'm not there for applause. I'm here for truth. She turned to the crowd. The man you celebrate tonight abandoned me in sickness and despair. He forged my death certificate, drained my savings, and turned my name into his business. The crowd erupted in gasps. Journalists shouted questions. Camera zoomed closer. Mark staggered back. You're lying. You're not. Elena cut him off. Every lie leaves a trail, Mark, and tonight yours end. Vanessa grabbed his arm, whispering frantically, Do something. But Mark was frozen, the world spinning around him. The intensity shifted into eerie silence. Elena's eyes glistened, her voice trembling with restraint. You once said I was nothing but a blank page. Well, here I am rewriting history. She turned to the crowd, tears in her eyes. To every woman who's been silenced, cheated, or forgotten, this is for you. The audience began to clap softly at first, then louder. Some stood. Mark's breathing grew ragged. He tried to speak, but the room drowned him out. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the noise. Vanessa's. She's bluffing. She doesn't have proof. Elena reached into her clutch, pulled out a silver flash drive, and held it up. You're right, she said coldly. I don't have proof, but the police officer waiting outside does. The double doors swung open. Uniformed officers entered. Gasps spread like wildfire. Mark stumbled backward, panic flashing across his face. You set me up. Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. No, Mark, you set yourself up. The officer stepped forward. Mark Reed, you are under arrest for fraud, identity theft, forgery, and embezzlement. Cameras flashed. Reporters screamed. Mark's perfect image cracked in front of the entire world. As he was handcuffed, Mark shouted over the chaos. This isn't over! Elena's eyes met his calm, unshaken. No, she said softly. It's only beginning. Mark Reed, you are under arrest. The officer's voice echoed through the grand ballroom like a gunshot. Extreme intensity seized the air. Guests gasped. Cameras whirred. The lights above flickered under the heat of chaos. Mark's face turned ghostly as the officer read the charges. Fraud, identity theft, forgery, and embezzlement. His entire empire built on stolen breath began to crumble before his eyes. Vanessa grabbed his arm, trembling. Mark, say something. He tried to speak, but his words came out strangled. This is a setup. She's lying. The officer stepped forward, placing handcuffs around his wrists. The metallic click cut through the bite. Murmurs. Elena stood still beneath the spotlight, her black gown shimmering under the golden chandeliers. Cameras captured every angle, the betrayed wife standing tall against the man who'd left her to die in sickness and despair. Vanessa turned on her, eyes wild. "You ruined everything." Elena's voice was calm, almost sorrowful. "No, Vanessa. Harry ruined you when he promised a kingdom built on another woman's grave." Reporters shouted questions, flashes bursting like lightning. "Mrs. Reed, how did you survive? Did you fake your death? Is it true your husband stole from your foundation?" Elena raised a hand, silencing them. "I didn't fake anything. I was supposed to die. But sometimes life refuses to follow the script." The intensity softened into reflection. She turned toward the cameras, her voice steady, but filled with quiet pain. "He left me in a hospital bed to rot, forged my death certificate, and stole my mother's inheritance. But while he was celebrating, I was rebuilding insolence." Her voice trembled just enough to make the crowd lean in. "I learned that survival is louder than vengeance. You don't have to destroy someone to win. Sometimes you just have to keep living." The room fell completely silent. Even the officer paused for a heartbeat. Then Elena looked at Mark, his face red with fury and humiliation. "You once said I was nothing but a blank page. Well, Mark, I filled that page with truth." He lunged forward, the cuffs clinking. "You'll regret this." The officer pulled him back. "That's enough." Maya Brooks, standing by the media booth, whispered to her cameraman, "Keep rolling. The world needs to see this." Clara Reed approached Elena quietly. "It's over," she said softly. Elena's eyes glistened. "No, Clara, it's just beginning." The officer guided Mark toward the exit. As they passed Vanessa, she broke down, mascara streaking her face. "You said she was gone," Mark spat back. "She was." Elena took one final step toward them, her voice echoing across the ballroom. "You buried me alive, Mark. But you forgot one thing. You can't bury the truth." The crowd erupted into applause, some cheering, others crying. As the police dragged Mark toward the doors, a loud crash rang out. One of the projectors above the stage flickered to life, showing live footage of Mark's offshore accounts, his forged documents, and a single photo, him and Vanessa signing fake checks. The guests gasped again. Maya's camera zoomed in. "It's streaming live," she whispered. Mark froze. "Who did that?" Elena turned her head slightly. "Not me." On the balcony above, a hooded figure unseen by the crowd watched in silence before disappearing into the shadows. Clara leaned in, whispering, "Who was that?" Elena's eyes narrowed. "The person who helped me survive." The applause was thunderous. Camera flashes turned the grand hall into a storm of light. At the center of the stage stood Elena Reed, calm and radiant in a white gown that shimmered under the gold chandeliers. It had been exactly 1 month since the night that broke the world's illusion. And tonight, the world gathered again to see what had risen from its ashes. Behind her, the banner read, "The Elena Reed Foundation for Women's Cancer Awareness Hope Restored." Extreme intensity filled the room, not from chaos, but from unity. Survivors, mothers, and daughters stood together, tears glistening as Elena took the microphone. Maya Brooks, now standing near the press booth, whispered to her cameraman, "Roll live. The world needs to hear this." Elena's voice trembled softly at first. "A few months ago, I was called dead, forgotten. My name I used for greed. My pain turned into profit. But sometimes survival is louder than vengeance." The crowd quieted. Every breath was hers. She continued, voice stronger now. "When I lost everything, my health, my marriage, my home, I thought my story ended. But then I realized something. You can't bury the truth. It always finds light." Grace, watching from the front row, dabbed at her eyes. Clara smiled faintly beside her. "Proud." Elena glanced at them both. "To the people who stood by me when I had nothing. Thank you. You taught me that silence isn't weakness. It's preparation." The intensity softened into reflection. She placed her hand over her heart. "This foundation isn't just mine. It belongs to every woman who's ever been told she's not enough. To every survivor who fought quietly. To every mother who whispered hope into the dark." Sarah, the kind neighbor from the quiet town, held her hands together and whispered, "She made it." Mr. Parker, representing Reed Industries, stepped forward. "Mrs. Reed, on behalf of the board, we are honored to have you back as rightful chairwoman. The empire your mother built and your husband stole is yours again." The audience erupted in applause. Some cheered, others cried. Elena smiled humbly. "Then let's make sure no woman's voice is ever stolen again." She looked directly into the cameras. The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Grace hugged her tightly, as reporters swarmed the stage. But as the noise roared, Maya Brooks noticed something strange on her live monitor. A private message flashing at the bottom of the broadcast feed. "Congratulations, Elena. Justice served." A friend inside, Mia frowned, glancing up at the balcony. A lone figure in a dark suit stood watching the same silhouette from the gala. "Who is that?" Mia whispered. Clara followed her gaze, but found the balcony empty. Elena, unaware, waved at the crowd, smiling through tears. "Thank you, everyone. This is just the beginning." Outside, police sirens faded in the distance. Mark's transfer to prison complete. But one question lingered in the air like smoke. As the lights dimmed and the audience filed out, the camera panned to the envelope on Elena's podium, unmarked, sealed in black wax. Written in silver ink were just 4 words. "We're not all done."